Hello and welcome to an exciting new episode of TGI Kubernetes. I'm your host, Kris Nova, your host and your hero and your favorite person in the whole world. Happy Friday, everyone. How is everybody doing today? And let's get started with my favorite, and I feel like everybody else's favorite part of the episode, which is where I get to say hello to everyone and see who's in our chat here. And then we'll talk a little bit about what we're going to go into today, do our updates for the week, and we're going to look at an exciting tool called Garden later on in the episode. So let's see who is all. Oh my gosh, a lot of people are typing already. Ah! Okay, the first one to type today on our episode, because I always call this person out, was me. And then it was followed by FS Daniel that says, hooray, start the show. Good to see you, FS Daniel. Good to see everybody else. I'm going to go through and read a couple of folks, say hi to some people, and then we'll get started. Okay, next we have Bazbank. Good evening from Lagos. So it's really exciting because folks will sometimes put, and it's getting more and more common, but they'll put where they're joining from in the chat so we get to see all these exciting people from around the world. And I think most folks are joining us internationally these days, which is really exciting. Oh, also, I'm going to close this door a little bit really quick. Not all the way because it gets really hot in here, but just enough. Okay, so anyway, hi from Lagos. Let's see, next we have Sandeep. It says, hello TGIK from Gibraltar. I don't think I've ever seen a Gibraltar before, so that's exciting. Lamatti, one of our favorite longtime fans of the show who joins, I think every time I've done a TGIK, I've seen Lamatti here pretty consistently. So good to see you, Lamatti, and thanks for all you do, and thanks for supporting the show. We appreciate it. Martin, good evening from the Netherlands. Let's see. Oh, Carlisia's here. Carlisia, looking forward to this one. Hi, Carlisia. Carlisia works with us here at VMware and is a really close friend of mine, and we're preparing on some exciting new secret projects together that we'll be announcing later on in the future. Okay, so next we have hi from Finland. Always good to see somebody from Finland. Hip Hop says, great. Hi, Hip Hop. I like your handle, Hip Hop. Martin Van says hi from Rotterdam. Bob is joining from Hollywood. Ellen is here. Ellen, so in Icelandic we would say Konabis, but I'm assuming that your last name is not pronounced with a U sound and it's pronounced with a hard O sound. So hi, Ellen. It's good to see you. Ellen and I have been in network for a long time. I used to mentor Ellen like 3 years ago. It's been a while since we did a formal mentorship. But anyway, Ellen is one of the advocates at Garden and is here to help us with our episode later on once we start playing with Garden. And to be honest, Ellen, I kind of intentionally didn't really do that much homework for today's episode because I want to see everything live and have you explain some of this stuff to us as we learn about Garden and all the exciting things it can do. So not to put you in the hot seat or anything, but yeah. It says, hello from Joe down the hall. Hi, Joe. Good to see you. Thanks for doing my sound check. Let's see. Peishu, hello from Plano, Texas. I used to live in Plano, Texas. I grew up down there a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away. Hello. We have hi from Belgium. Hi from Sweden. Hello from Berlin. A lot of people joining from EU. We have, somebody joining from Norway. That's really cool. Hi from Paris, good to see you. Hi from Colombia. Duffy's here. Hi, Duffy, thanks for helping out. Also, shout out to George, I don't think he's here on the call today, or here on the episode today, but he did a lot of work for us beforehand, and so I always like to make it a point to say thanks to George, and thanks to Duffy, and thanks to Joe and everyone else who helps us get ready for the episode every week. Elisiano, hi all, and Nicholas Selene, who also works here at VMware. A lot of VMware homies joining. Oh, and Brian's here too, speaking of VMware homies. So hi from the Best Coast. I'm pretty sure it's West Coast, Best Coast. At least that's what Alaska Airlines says. And the West Coast clearly is the best coast. We have glaciers and mountains and big trees. That's cool, right? Anyway, Ashish, good to see you. Ashish is another one of our longtime fans here. Anyway, that's enough for now. If folks want to drop their name and where they're from in the chat, I'll come back here in a few minutes and take a look and say hi to a few more folks. But let's go ahead and see what is going on in TGIK this week. So, actually, I think I need to open up a browser. Wait, do I have a browser open? Maybe. Let's see. Nope, we'll just do a new one. Okay. So let's use my magic keys here, and we want to go to our HackMD, which, has anybody put that in the chat yet? Can somebody drop the HackMD link in the chat for everyone? I'm going to pull it up here on my end, but you're not going to be able to see it because I'm going to do it on my other monitor here. So let's see, there's Slack, and I want to scroll up to, nope, keep going. There it is. So there's that. And I can drop a link in the chat too. Okay, so here's our HackMD for the week. So what we do is we commit this to our GitHub repo every week. And if folks want to take notes, or we can drop code snippets here and use this as a resource, you can log in using GitHub and you can edit the markdown here on the left side, and you'll see it render live here on the right side. And the link for this is here. I'm going to drop it in the chat if nobody else has done it yet. Oh, okay, so Nicholas Lane is here bringing me a beer. Come in here, Nick. I'm going to put you on the spot, too. So do you want to talk to folks about what you've been doing after TGIKs on the rig?
Oh, yeah, sure. So hey, everyone. So every fortnight, I do a Zoom meeting, like a stream, called the Cloud Native Social Hour, where we just come up with a bunch of people and talk about some specific thing in tech, but mostly it's like everyone's Cloud Native journey. It's mostly hanging out. There's some tech involved, and that's about it. Yeah. It's a lot of fun.
So it's like Friday afternoons after TGIK, hanging out with Nicholas.
Yeah, hell yeah.
So yeah, I didn't really want the Miller Lite. I just wanted you to come and talk about it.
Oh, you baited me.
I totally baited you. Okay, anyway, thanks.
All right, cheers.
Okay, so that's Nicholas Lane. He works here at VMware, and I like to put him on the spot and give him a hard time, which is exciting. Okay, so let's see. Duffy says some stuff. Yep, East Coast, West Coast. Nope. There's the HackMD. Duffy got it. Woo, hey, Nick. Okay, so the HackMD, it's here in the chat. We'll add it to the YouTube video link below in the comment section, and we'll put some pointers in there as well afterwards. Also, while you're here, hit that subscribe button. Subscribe to Heptio YouTube channel that I think is going to turn into the VMware YouTube channel in a moment, but I'm pretty sure we'll be able to transfer all the subscribers over. But make sure you hit that button. And yeah, let's get started. So we're doing episode 73. I can't believe we're already on episode 73. We've done a ton of these. TGIK on garden. And this week for our image, we have a lovely picture of a garden here. Okay, so table of contents. If folks want to put timestamps in here, we can port these over to the YouTube video afterwards, and that'll help people who want to come in and skip to certain sections of the episode. So the week in review, I think George is the one who did this week. I made it a point not to look at any of this, so we're going to open it up live and see what we got. So it says Lee Briggs compares using Fargate from a Kubernetes user standpoint. Okay, so let's see this. Let's find out who Lee Briggs is. Hello, I'm Lee Briggs. This is my blog. You may find posts, DevOps, IT, about me. And there's you can come in here and see stuff. Oh, this looks like an amazing post. I can already tell I'm going to love that one. But anyway, I've been building a Kubernetes-based platform at work now. Okay, so Lee doesn't want to tell us where he works. So Ellen says, Nova, this is the example project I had mentioned. GitHub.com/gardenio/go3dprint. Do you think we should check that out today? I have not looked at it, but I'm happy to check it out and run it if you think it's ready for showtime. Let me know. So yeah, I think he's just talking about the Fargate illusion here. I had my eye on AWS Fargate for some time now, and it's something that developers at Variable Work have been gluing serverless computing, mainly because Fargate. Okay, so what's going on here is Fargate is basically, it's a way for you to easily run a container image in the cloud. So think of if you were just to define a pod in Kubernetes, but you would go run this in the AWS console. So actually, I think we can actually log in and see what it would look like, so folks get an idea of how Fargate is going to work. We're not actually going to deploy anything, but I just want to show you the fields. So let's go to services, and we can just type Fargate up here. Is that it? I don't know. We might not be able to find it. I haven't done this in a while. So Fargate, ECS. Okay, so yeah, it's called ECS now. ECS, Elastic Container Service, and then I think you have to learn more about it, and you can run containers at scale. Go to clusters, you can do a new ECS cluster, so on and so forth. Joe Beta says, the thing that Nicholas does after TGIK is a lot more interactive and unstructured, as it's a Zoom chat versus a YouTube broadcast, just a different format. That's a good point. So the whole point of Nicholas's thing is for it to be interactive. Right now we have the chat, but it's basically just me shouting my thoughts over the internet at people, which, don't get me wrong, I love doing. But Nicholas's thing is much more interactive, and you can come and ask questions and help people out. So I like to look at it as sort of like a cross between a TGIK and a SIG call that Nicholas hosts, and he does a fantastic job. They're a bunch of fun if you want to check them out. And I think we have a link, or at least some tweets on these things that Nicholas has been doing. We can share as well. And let's see, Nicholas says, hey Duffy, also yes to what Joe is saying. It's more of a hangout sesh. I don't know how you spell sesh, but I guess that's how one would spell sesh. Anyway, you can come through and you can create a cluster and you can run a single container image and be like, I want to run Nginx and poke a hole in port 80 and I want a copy of it or 2 copies of it or whatever. And that's basically what this is doing. It's like simplified Kubernetes. So I had my eye on AWS Fargate. Blah, blah, blah. I don't want to spend too much time on this. I'm running a container on Fargate with its configuration pushed down. Secrets should not be in plain text behind a load balancer. TLS enabled with a balancer. Jan says hello from Palo Alto. Lamati says, Kris, where did the gong go? I wonder that every week. I don't know where the gong went. I got one for KubeCon. It's around here somewhere, but I ordered it, and I guess it's not like a real gong. It just looks like a real gong, so it was really kind of anticlimactic. But I don't know. Maybe we can. So we're getting a new studio later on this year at the Bellevue office, and we're going to kind of like revamp the TGIK thing. I even think we're going to have like a monitor back there or something. And I'm wondering if we could like sneak a gong into that budget. We might try to do that. It's a good idea, Lamati. Nicholas says, thanks, Nova. Okay, so anyway, back to Lee's blog here. It says AWS has overhead, and then it just says run my Dan container. So I think he's just coming in and saying that it's just, could be a little bit simpler, easy to use, and he just wants to run a container, which is sort of the point of Fargate and what it's advertised to do. Anyway, if you want to learn more about Fargate and maybe some of the frustrations or issues that this person experienced, this is a good blog to come and check out. Okay, so let's close this. We can close Lee's blog. Thanks for writing that for us, Lee. Tinder's notes on moving to Kubernetes. Oh, this is going to be good. Okay, so Tinder is an online dating site, and often the Twitterverse, a lot of folks have been saying that this is a very complicated implementation of running Kubernetes. I've already read this blog, so I kind of already know a little bit about it. But anyway, if you want to come through and see how Tinder moved their dating site with all of their services to Kubernetes, and all of the different various pieces that they used on top of their cluster or alongside your cluster to get their dating app up and running, you can come through, and this is a very technical description of the infrastructure, which we know the infrastructure is the bottom half of our imaginary OSI model that we like to keep up in our brains. But anyway, it comes through and it talks about how they were able to do CI/CD and build a container and create Docker images. It talks about how they were able to size their cluster, how they deployed it, what the migration looked like. So if you're looking at moving to Kubernetes and you're wondering what that experience will be like, and you just kind of want to read like a full-fledged story of the beginning, middle, and end, this might be a good blog for you to come and check out and just see how they're doing it. I think one of the things that I would do in this blog next time is maybe spend a little bit more time talking about the human experience and why they were doing certain things and how they made these technical choices instead of just these are the choices we made. Because I think that's the interesting bit, right? It's always nice to understand why engineers chose what they did. So let's see. Joe says, the gong was owned by an employee that is no longer with us. Got it. Hold on, I gotta get some Coke. I need sugar. I don't need any more sugar, let's be honest. But yeah, I'm drinking Red Can today. I do this like once a year, maybe. Joe says, if I recall correctly, it was a 40-inch gong. Looks like that gong goes for something like $1,200. Okay, so yeah, we can make that into the new studio budget. I can make the executive decision there, right? I think I just did. I don't know. We'll see. Not sure if that includes the stand. He took it home with him. It was pretty darn amazing, though. Yeah, it was amazing. I have fond memories of watching Joe turn around and like hit the gong every TGIK episode. Anyway, back to our blog here. Network fabric limits. So yeah, they really go into detail here about how they were able to build their Kubernetes cluster, solving problems like DNS, and really, really go into a lot of detail in the back end and why they did and how they did what they did. So yeah, here you can see we have users, main proxy layer, there's a load balancer, and we have service pods. So there's some good graphs here, and then you get this nice conclusion statement at the end that kind of talks about the end state of the world. But anyway, if you wanna come check this out, it looks like it had 1.5 thousand likes for it, and I know it's been getting a lot of attention, so it should be a pretty good read. I certainly enjoyed reading it. Ashish says, you can hire me, I come with a gong. That's funny, Ashish. Okay. Not that hiring you would be funny, but just the gong that you would come with one is pretty funny. So Kate's 1.4, gosh, seriously, I think this is the 5th episode of TGIK in a row where I've announced that a new version of Kubernetes is out. We have extremely fast release cycles, and we're already up to 1.14. We've almost done, actually no, because my first version of Kubernetes I worked on was 1.4, so there's been 10 releases since I started working in K8s. Elysianio says, ha ha ha, I knew someone would say that. That's really funny. Let's see here. So yeah, if you want to come read 1.14, so my preferred way to do this, and there's a lot of folks who they do a blog for every release where they go through and kind of explain their opinions on the things that changed. The Kris Nova method, the one that I like to do is I come in here and I click on this changelog, and you can come through and you can see, not only can you see all the binaries, which are really handy, but if you scroll down, these are all built from various commits, so you actually get the PR number for this feature that was merged in and is now part of the release. So it's a little more engineer focused, it's a little more technical, but it's a good resource if you want to understand the why a lot of these things were done. For instance, if you want to come here, you can see, let's wait for it to load, you can see the full PR, and you can come through and you can sort of piece together the history here and see that, oh, Tim Pepper had a comment, and maybe understand the original issue if it's pointed to one. Which issues does this PR fix? It doesn't have one, but sometimes there'll be an issue number here. So you can start to understand the history of these releases and put together the why we're doing what we're doing in Kubernetes, which I always enjoy doing. It's a good Sunday morning activity that's fun for the whole family. Okay, so back here for 1.14, we have how Godaddy manages external secrets. Ooh, I'm curious here. Managing external secrets is not tricky, but it has some room for growth. So anyway, teams at Godaddy use the AWS Managed Kubernetes offering, EKS, to deploy their services. So what EKS is it's similar to ECS, but for Kubernetes. So ECS is just for Docker containers or any OCI compliant container. EKS is effectively the same thing, but for Kubernetes. And that is sort of out there. And you can go and click a few buttons and get a Kubernetes cluster. And then once you have your cluster, it's just regular old vanilla Kubernetes, or pretty darn close. So yeah, we also use AWS Secrets Manager for storing secrets. Okay, that's cool. So the AWS Secrets Manager is basically a way for you to come in and store some sort of secret information. So SSH keys, passwords, whatever, and you're able to plug that up to your applications, and your applications are able to securely get the secret, and the engineers don't really have to worry about how they're managing it, and this takes care of it for you. And I'm sure it comes with a really long list of guarantees, pay as you go, and probably has an SLA or something if it's a full-fledged product that folks can count on if secret storage concern is something that is important to you. So anyway, let's go back here. Overview, Kubernetes has built-in object for managing secrets called a secret. I wonder if they're going to point out the fact that secrets aren't secrets. Let's see. Makes it a application to pods. One downside of secret objects is they do not support storing or retrieving the secret data for external security management systems. Not what I had in mind, but that's still a very good point to bring out. So basically, it looks like they want to be able to have some sort of external-facing secret storage, meaning that they want to be able to store a secret, like the one defined here, where we have an arbitrary key and an arbitrary secret value, and they want to be able to plug that into any service running outside of your Kubernetes cluster. So that's what they mean by external secrets. So Kubernetes external secrets aim to provide the same use, which is basically what I just said. And instead of inlining base64 encoded secret data into a secret object, developers define an external secret object that specifies secret management system. Okay, so down here, we have an external secret. Okay, so it looks like this is not, it's still in, I don't think it's alpha or beta, but it's Kubernetes client. It's called external secret, and I think the big difference here is this data is base64 encoded. In fact, I bet let's see how accurate these docs are. So let's do echo, pipe to base64. What is it, minus capital D? Well, yeah, okay, so that's base64 encoded. It doesn't say whatever the password was defined down here, password. It says woof, which is pretty cute. And so anyway, the external secret one is you don't have to base64 to code it. And you can access the password from within a pod the same way you can access a secret. So this is pretty cool and talks about how they're using AWS to sort of mimic and mirror the same implementation here. Exciting stuff from Godaddy and external facing secrets. I'm going to butcher this name, but Yaochi Fujimoto has a fast guide on using kind, which we did a TGIK on Kind. And basically what Kind is it's Kubernetes in a Docker container. And I think the best pitch I have on Kind is if you can imagine doing a Docker PS on your host and seeing one container running, and then execing into that container and doing a Docker PS again, and then seeing the Kubernetes containers that make up a Kubernetes cluster running. That's Kind, Kubernetes in Docker. It's containers in a container. And so you can use the command line tool to sort of like initialize a cluster, and then you can access that cluster and use it just like a regular old Kubernetes. The thing I liked using about it is you were able to vendor in the Go library that the command line tool is built on, and we were able to plug that into Go tests, and we were able to spin up a very small, very lightweight, very quick Kubernetes cluster, run some arbitrary unit tests against it, and then destroy that cluster at the end of running our unit tests, which is a pretty handy pattern that I think folks would really enjoy using if you have ever tried to write the classic, like, we're going to wrap kops or kubecorn in a bash script and run it in Jenkins to create a cluster every time we run our end-to-end tests, which is how Kubernetes itself used to do it. This simplifies that whole process greatly. Duffy says you can do a multi-node and HA configs automatically as well work with Kind. It's super awesome. So what Duffy is saying is you can have more than one node, or you can sort of synthesize more than one node, or workhorse or virtual machine if you want to think of it that way. And it does HA, which means highly available, which means that all of your traffic is behind the load balancer, and then that hits one of three or some odd number of Kubernetes API servers, which is exciting. So anyway, this is Kind, and this probably goes through in greater detail than what I just went through. But if you want to check it out, it's a really cool project, and it's built by one of the SIGs here in Kubernetes. So it's the closest thing we have as a community, as like a community-driven project here, which here you can see Kind, and you can see it's in the official Kubernetes SIGs GitHub organization here. So this is cool. So if you want to make a change, you're more than welcome to come and contribute and catch up with the folks who are working on Kind. So that's exciting. Okay, let's close some of this stuff. Check out Kind here. I think that's probably the same link I just clicked on. Yep, this is just the docs. But here you can kind of see, like, you type Kind create cluster, and it will actually go and deploy a cluster locally for you. And if you want to find out more, you can check out the TGIK I did on it as well. Okay, so comparing local development with Dreef, Scaffold, and Garden. Okay, this is a perfect segue. Thank you, George, for putting these in a very logical order. Let's see what folks are saying. Duffy says, and the link is to sigs.kates.io/kind. Thanks, Duffy. Okay, so I think Joe did a TGIK on Draft. I can't remember if it was me or one of us did a TGIK on Scaffold, and then today I'm doing one on Garden. And I think this is exciting because this is basically doing a compare and contrast of all of these different tools. When I was working at Microsoft, it was when we were originally working on Draft, and I remember the whole mission statement with here. It's an open source project. Was how do we simplify it and help empower engineers to developing on Kubernetes easier? Developing on Kubernetes is relatively, I don't want to say hard, but it comes with a unique set of challenges. And these tools help to simplify those challenges. And they both do it, or all three of them do it in a slightly different way. So if you want to come through and get a write-up, I'm sure we'll talk about some of this stuff on the air today as we look at Garden. But you can come through and see what we have here. So Draft development tutorial. So this is how you would use Draft. And basically the way Draft works is you can do like a watch on your file system whenever you save a file. It'll go and automatically build a Docker image, push it to a registry, and then pull that down to your cluster for you using a tool called Helm, which I've done a TGIK on that as well. If you want to find out more about Helm, you can check that out. Okay, so we're going to go through some of this. If folks want to read it and tell me if there's any good takeaways in here, we can mention them on the show. But let's jump into the reason everybody's here. We're about 30 minutes into the episode, so we're going to jump into Garden. Oh, also, I put this here. If you're deploying to GKE, which I did earlier today, this is the magic make my kube config a cluster admin command that you want to run so that you can do all the things. Probably not the best idea if you actually plan on using your cluster in production. You'll probably want to go through and actually use real RBAC, but for me, I'm lazy, and that's how I set it up today. So that's the magic one-liner if you're interested. Okay, so let's see what's going on here in the chat. And Ellen, I'm going to pick on you a little bit as we start reading the docs of Garden. I'm not really going to pick on you, but I'm going to ask you for cool ideas and stuff to do so we can show off Garden and make it look awesome. Okay, so let's actually get a link to Garden for Kubernetes in our README here. We can review, show notes, reference links. Here we go. So let's do Garden GitHub. So this is the GitHub page for Garden, which we have opened up here. I'm going to get some more red can. And it says, Development Orchestrator for Kubernetes, Containers, and Functions. So I think here a function alludes to a serverless function or like a cloud function where you could just write a small bit of code, and that code would be ran for you as needed. Ellen says, if you find anything wrong, it's probably all my fault. No, I'm sure you did great, Ellen. And then Saeed says, hello. Hey, Saeed. How's it going? Good to see you. Ellen, can you drop in that GitHub link for the Go3D project? Can you add that to the HackMD here for us? And I'll pull it up here in a second. So whenever I come and check out a new project, my approach to figuring out how to use it and what it does is pretty straightforward. I come through and I read this first, and hopefully if they did a good job, this is enough to kind of start getting me thinking in the right way about what the project is. And here it says Development Orchestrator, which I think is a fancy way of saying it's a tool that makes development easier and handles all of the different complex pieces of developing on Kubernetes for you and simplifies it, which we kind of talked about that a little bit earlier. Anyway, the next thing I do is I check and see what it's written in, because that's going to tell me a lot about, particularly if it's written in Go, about how it's going to be interacting with Kubernetes. In this case, it's written in TypeScript, so I'm assuming we're using the TypeScript SDK. I think Brendan wrote that, or I forget who wrote it, but there is a TypeScript SDK that you can use to interact with Kubernetes that I'm assuming we're using here. Okay, people are talking. Well, I'm going to say it the way that it's actually written. But Jonna Edville says, nah, probably my fault, and good evening from Copenhagen, Olav. Or wait, does your name have an S or a D in it? How? Whatever, it doesn't matter. So anyway, let's scroll down and see what we got here. So looking at the code, we have a lot of JSON-y things, package lock, package.json. I'm sure if we look in here, we can find SDK or Kubernetes maybe. Let's see. Nope. I'm definitely not a TypeScript expert. It's basically like type to JavaScript is the way I commonly think about it. But if anybody here does write a lot of TypeScript, feel free to let us know your thoughts on the repo here, and we can explore it if relevant. Okay, so here in the examples, I think this is what we're going to look at first. These are all example projects that you could use to start off using Garden. And I think if we go to the quick start here in a second, we can see there's like this simple project I think we're going to start with today. John Ethvald is the proper spelling. So yeah, that second character has got a TH sound to it. I'm sorry, I thought it was a D. Jon. Okay, sorry, still working on my pronunciation. I can read and write it really well, but I can't speak it very good. Okay, so Spring Project, Garden.yaml and services. Okay, we're getting off in the weeds, pun intended, Garden. And let's go and see if we can't find like a quick start or something. Okay, so then I'll come down here and I'll read this little bit. Garden is a development orchestrator for Kubernetes, containers, and functions, and designed to make it easy to rapidly develop and test multi-service systems. So the whole point of the project is to simplify development on Kubernetes. And Jon says the bulk of the code is under Garden service. Okay, so let's go look in here. So Garden service. Okay, so here we have gulp file. I don't know what gulp file is. Source? Probably here. Oh yeah, this looks like source code. So yeah, we have config.craft.typescript. So yeah, you can see here it looks somewhat similar to JavaScript, but everything is typed. You have different types, so it kind of solves that problem. So yeah, again, I'm not a TypeScript expert. I write Go most of the time. Okay, so we can look at the code a little bit later if needed. Let's scroll back down here. With a stack graph, each part of your stack can describe itself using simple, intuitive declarations. I'm assuming this is like a YAML something or other. Hopefully it's YAML. Maybe it'll be a different encoding language. I don't think that really matters all too much. But we just like YAML because that's what Kubernetes uses, so it keeps us all in the same mental space. without changing any of your code. Garden collects all of your declarations, even across multiple repositories, into a full graph of stack and leverages the information to dramatically improve your developer experience. Okay, so for folks at home who know anything about graph theory, building a graph is something that is very common in computer science, and it can be used to solve problems like how one would navigate their file system, which is basically like a three-dimensional set of linked lists with n number of vertices per number of vertices per connector or something like that. Anyway, that's a fancy way of saying for every one entity, you can have some other number of entities attached to it, and you can explore the graph that way. And that's how you can go into a directory and see multiple directories and then pick one and go into that directory and so on and so forth. It creates this sort of tree-like shape, if you want to think of it that way. And I'm assuming Garden does the same thing, but with your applications and how it reasons about your applications, if I said that correctly. Let's see, key features. Spin up your whole stack with a single command. Easily write integration test suites. Ooh, so this looks cool. So you can easily write test suites. Test name unit, arguments, npm test. Okay, so this is actually like passing in commands to do like an npm test for JavaScript or something. That's pretty cool. Maybe we can try to write an integration test later. Define tasks that run. You can do a hot reload. I'm assuming this is like the draft thing where it'll just watch your file system. When the local Kubernetes or Kubernetes provider is used, container modules can be configured. -- hot. Currently, services are only deployed with hot reloading and enable. Okay, so we can do pass in -- hot or hot reload, and we can explore this a little bit, and let's see what we have here. Name, test service, type container. So yeah, you would go through and actually define a container here, and you can do hot reload args, npm run dev, or you can just do your regular args, npm start. Okay, so if you do -- hot, it's going to run these, and if you just do regular, it'll run those. Okay, that's pretty rad. The built-in web dashboard gives you full overview. Okay, so there's a dashboard. We should definitely try to get the dashboard up and running, and many more UI features are planned to further aid with development. Build, test, and deploy Docker containers, Helm charts, open fast functions, and more. An extensible plugin system. Okay, so you can write plugins for it as well. So this looks fairly mature, and it's written in TypeScript, so I'm imagining it's going to be quite beautiful. Let's see if we can't open up this GIF here. Yeah. Oh yeah, it's got like cool graphic-y things. So yeah, I've seen some other TypeScript projects that look like this, so this is exciting. Anyway, let's try to find a quick start and then try to find something to help us get the dashboard up and running. Yon or Ellen, if either of you have good suggestions on sample projects for the dashboard or a tutorial for the dashboard, holler at your girl. Okay, so if we scroll down, we can see quick start. Head over to the basics section in our documentation for details on how to set up and use Garden, or look through the simple project guide for a brief intro on how it works. Let's go to basics, and here's a quick start here. Okay, so let's add this to the HackMD. All right, so quick start with Garden. All right, cool. So let's go back here. Okay, so using the CLI. With the CLI installed, we can now try out a few commands using the simple project. Okay, so let's give folks at home kind of an update on where I am here locally. And let me resize this too. That was bothering me. So Herman says hello and good evening from Berlin, Germany. Hello, Herman. It's good to see you. Oh, and Ellen says, once you get things running, there'll be a link on the terminal for the dashboard. Perfect. So that makes it simple. Okay, so first things first, I have the Garden command line tool installed. And you can see here, it looks very similar to a lot of the Go tools, where it tells you like the commands you can use, and you can pass in various options to the commands. And you can see here we have all of these lovely build, call, delete, deploy, dev, exec, etc. And I think these are all of the common tasks that a developer would do at some point in the development cycle of working on building a Kubernetes application. And I think the idea here, if you read Jon's blog, which I skimmed over earlier, the idea here is that Garden takes all of these complex things that a developer might choose to do and puts them into one place, so you only have to learn one tool, and that sort of does your whole development experience for you. And that's why I think they're referring to it as a development orchestrator and not like a dev tool. Which makes sense. And so speaking of Jon's blog, So he sent it to me on Twitter. Let's see if I can pull this up. I'm not going to show you all my Twitter. Don't worry. Yon. Yeah, it's right here. So I'll put this in the chat as well. So let's do a new one. If you want to find out more about the value prop, you can come in here and you can read Yon's blog here. And I think Ellen has one in here as well. Yeah, about Garden raising €1 million for backend development. So yeah, if you want to come and read some of these blogs, this is put together by the folks who work on Garden, and I think are going to explain probably much better than I can the inspiration on why they built it the way they did, which is cool. Okay, so now let's do blogs on Garden. Okay, cool. So back to our quick start. How I installed Garden, let's go down here, is I did, actually I can show you the docs, but basically I was able to brew install it using Homebrew. So here in the docs, you can see with the CLI installed, here it is, the installation guide. This is what you want. So yeah, for Mac OS X, I did these two commands here. Looks like it runs on Windows if you want to run it on Windows. And if you want to run it on Linux, there's like good old manual installation steps that I'm assuming like you have to move something into path. Yeah, totally. Export path equals garden bin. Or you can use micro-k8s as well. So very good job at explaining how to get this up and running. I just skipped that step, so we're already good to go here. Also, let's take a look at my Kubernetes cluster. So I always do alias kdump is equal to kubectl get all -- all namespaces. And that's in my bash RC. So now I can just do kdump. And it doesn't give us every Kubernetes resource, but it actually gives us quite a few. And usually the ones that I'm looking for are all going to be listed here anyway. You'll notice you won't see secrets and things in here, but that's okay, because really all I want to do is just kind of give folks an overview of what my cluster looks like as we get Garden up and running on it. So the first thing I want to point out is our namespaces. So we have the default namespace, kube system, and you can see inside of kube system we have the default HTTP backend, heapstrip, kube DNS, metric server. This is a very simple GKE cluster, and it's got the metric server installed in case we want to look at that later, and it's running heapster, and it looks like we have an event exporter as well running in the kube system namespace. And we can even go kgetns, which is short for kubectl get namespaces. And you can see here, there we have default kube public and kube system. So vanilla cluster. Jumping back in, let's go back to our quick start. So the first thing it says, first let's check the environment status by running the following project from root. So garden git status. Actually, I skipped a step. Let's go here. It says it wants us to do a git clone and then go into garden examples simple project. I've already done that. And that's where I am here in simple project. And you can see if we print my working directory, I'm in my Go path, source, GitHub, garden.io, garden. I just checked it out like I would any other Go project, just because bad habits, I guess. I don't know. It's a TypeScript project in my Go path, but YOLO. So anyway, I also have that pulled up here. So if you want to come in, you can see we have garden, examples, and then I think we're doing simple project. So we can actually explore this. This might be a little bit easier for folks at home to see here in my IDE. And I can scoot this over just a little bit. You can see we already have this error log over here, which I'm going to delete that because that's just from me tinkering before the episode. We have hidden directory garden, and we have services. And I'm sure we'll explore these a little bit later. Oh, and it looks like we have messages in chat. Let's see here. It says, once you get things running, okay, that was Ellen's. And then Yon says, a lot of examples assume a local installation of Kubernetes, Docker for desktop, Minikube, or micro-k8s. Yon, could we use kind? This might be a good opportunity for us to use kind. If not, I can try to get micro-k8s. Does micro-k8s work on Mac OS X? I feel like I did a TGI on micro-k8s. I don't know. I've done a lot of these things. They blur together. That's why we record them. So here we have our garden.yaml, and this just says the name of it is simple project, and then defines environments is equal to local, and provider is local Kubernetes. So I think here we could, if we wanted to, we could do like multiple environments we could have one for dev or something and say providers and kind of set this up. Name equals my dev cluster or whatever. So I think that there's a concept here of having multiple environments for different things, which is one of the things that KSON did really well for app development and deployment that we missed out in tools like Helm, where we could basically only able to define one environment, and if you wanted to mutate even the smallest thing, you pretty much had to copy that whole environment over and change it if you didn't want to template it out. So Bochan says, good evening, everybody. Happy Easter. And Yon says we haven't set it up for Kind yet. Okay, so we'll try it using GKE, and if not, we'll try to get a local something set up. We could probably do Minikube. That's pretty easy, and I think I have everything installed on here for Minikube. But yeah, let's see what happens when we try to run this in GKE. Okay, so first things first, quick start. So we are in our simple project directory, and then it says we can do garden get status. So let's see what this command outputs. Oof. And while we wait for that, I think it's time for some Coca-Cola Classic. Okay, providers, local Kubernetes, it's not ready. Dashboard pages, services, node service, ingresses, state missing, go service, hello.go. This, I'm not really sure what we're looking at here, but I'm thinking this is complaining because we're not running local Kubernetes. So Yon or Ellen, if you think it's wise for me just to go ahead and set up Minikube now, drop a thing in the chat and I'll just move over to Minikube. I don't want to sit here and tinker with GKE if we already know that that's probably not going to be the best idea. Okay, so Yon says, he dropped something in the chat. So let's show what he said so y'all can see it. Okay, he says, github.com/gardenio/garden has an entry for our GKE cluster, which you could start with. So let's see what this is. I'm starting to feel like we should just, excuse me, Coca-Cola. We should install Minikube and get a cluster running up in that way. But we'll see what we have here. So this says Garden example vote Helm. Voting app example implemented with Garden and Helm. Okay, so this is an example application similar to the ones we were just looking at. So I'm assuming this means we have some sort of software and then we have like our Garden information in here. Yeah, here's our garden.yaml as well. So yeah, let's do this one. This is a clone of the vote example project modified to use Helm charts to describe Kubernetes resources instead of the simple container module type. Okay, but Yon says, but otherwise Minikube is a good bet. Okay, so here's what I think we should do. I think we should do the simple project on Minikube just to kind of understand the broad nature of Garden and just get an idea of how the CLI works. And then if we have time at the end of the episode, we'll come here and we'll get this running and look at how Garden implements Helm and see what's going on there. So to do that, let's get Minikube up and running. Welcome to the episode on Garden where we install Minikube. It shouldn't take too long. I might even already have it. Nope. Okay. So install Minikube. I know there's a really good, tutorial here in Kubernetes, and I've done this before, so I'm going to go pretty quick here so that we can get right back into Garden. The easiest way is to use Homebrew, and I think we need to get a hypervisor as well. So I'm going to use VirtualBox. So download Oracle VM VirtualBox, download version 6.0. We want OS X hosts. That's downloading. Let's see what's going on here. Minikube was successfully installed. Bam. Okay, so then after this gets done, we can do a Minikube start, and it should create a virtual machine using Oracle's VirtualBox with a hole poked in the firewall so we can access the Kubernetes API. Donald says Brewcask install Minikube. Thank you, Donald. Okay, cool. So virtual, here, I'll do this up here so folks at home can see. So drag this into applications. Oh, double click on the icon. Oh, so we have to control click on this because Mac. Open. Continue. Here, I'll move this up here so y'all can see. Also, if you can't tell, the fans on my laptop just turned on, so we're doing something here. Okay, installing. Donald said Brewcask install VirtualBox again. So yeah, we're just gonna install it this way. Lag makes me less helpful. Oh, it's okay. So yeah, what Donald is alluding to here is there's actually a bit of a time differential between what is happening for me here in real life and what is happening for you on the other end. In other words, I'm about 30 seconds in the future. So sometimes there's like a little bit of mismatch between what folks say and where I actually am. System from the developer was blocked. So allow that. Let's try this again. Keep. Let's go here. If this doesn't work, we'll go with what Donald had to say. Continue, install. There it goes. This Miller Lite is just like staring at me, taunting me. Okay, so yeah, we can move that to trash now. We have VirtualBox installed. So I think now we can just come here and do minikube. Actually, let's do this. Let's move our old kube config over to kube GKE. And then that way we can do minikube start. And we should just write a brand new kube config. And then that way we can just switch back and forth with our kube configs. And we don't have to worry about switching our contexts because I'm lazy like that. Saeed says, why not use Docker for desktop with K8s enabled? That's a good question. Yon, do you know if the Docker with desktop, which is the little Docker icon in the top right corner of your screen, which would be like up here, where you can start Kubernetes that way, do you know if that would work? I'm assuming it should, but I don't know what Garden is trying to do behind the scenes, but we're about to find out. Okay, so downloading the minikube ISO. Okay, it's done. I think it's maybe setting it up. This is kind of cool that a lot of folks don't know about it, is if you actually open VirtualBox, there's a UI thing here, and you can actually see that we have one VM called minikube, and you can come through and you can like see the settings and look at how it was set up and like look at the ports and everything, which is kind of cool. Let's see, waiting for images download, preparing Kubernetes. So yeah, minikube is just doing its thing. Jon says that generally is the more performant on Mac, yes. Okay, so Jon suggests using Docker Kubernetes, but we're already here with minikube, so we'll just go with minikube. Plus, I feel like it's always a good reminder for folks to like see how to use minikube. It's like the classic test Kubernetes that's been around for quite some time. Okay, so let's go back to, we can minimize this. Let's go back here and just get an idea of what's going on next with our quick start. Guarding get status, and then after that we do, the response tells us how the environment is configured. Next we would do a Garden build, and this builds Docker images for, we have two services, one called Go service and one called Node service, respectively, and then we'll deploy the services with Garden deploy. Okay, so this is kind of solving the CI/CD bits of creating container images and then actually deploying them to Kubernetes. So one of the things that Helm does that's pretty handy is it allows you to define a group of resources. Like let's say we have a deployment, some RBAC, maybe a handful of services, an ingress rule, like whatever. And you can group all those together and sort of represent this group of resources as an application. I think we're doing the same thing here with Garden, but we're just calling that a service. And we can actually define various bits and pieces of those services. And then when you do a Garden build, it's going to create the container images for us. And then when you do a Garden deploy, it'll go and configure everything for you in Kubernetes. If I had to guess, I think that's right, but we're about to find out. Waiting for pods. I really like how minikube uses cute emojis, by the way. So whoever PR'd the emojis into minikube, you have a fan in Seattle. So after Garden deploy, we can do Garden call. So Jon says you can also run Garden dev, which does all of the above and waits for changes to your code. Okay, so what Jon is saying is Garden dev is similar to what draft does with watching your file system. So it's just one command, and it'll watch my my local repository here for changes, and then deploy it to Kubernetes. So we're going to get the simple project up and running, and we're actually going to do that. But first, we'll do a garden build and a garden deploy, and then we'll do a garden dev, and then look at some of these other commands too. So that's really cool. Okay, thank you for using Minikube. Okay, so now I should be able to kgit po. Actually, we'll just do kdump again. Okay, perfect. So this is a much more simple cluster here. It doesn't have a lot of the same goodies on top of it that we saw in GKE, but that's totally cool, especially if they've already tested this. We know it's going to work well. So Rigmundo says, hails from Mexico. Hi. So now we're in our simple project. So it was garden build. And actually, let's just see what this does first. Oh my gosh, brew install tree. I want to see what this local sample project looks like before I make any changes to it, so we can see like a before and after here. So tree, okay, perfect. So here we have garden.yaml, we have a Go service, which inside of the Go service we have a Docker file, which a Docker file is going to contain information about what our container is going to, how it's going to be built. We have another garden.yaml, and we have a web server with a main.go. So I want to look at this garden.yaml. So let's cat services garden, go service garden.yaml. All right, let's do this again. Okay, so here we have go service container. It's of type container, and it's got container port. Okay, so this is an abstraction on top of a Kubernetes object. And you can tell that because typically the ports and the configuration bits here are a little bit more complex, and we have ingresses here as well. So this is really cool. This combines various, actually I'm going to draw a picture here. .cam, because obviously we needed to draw pictures on TGI, okay? So this is going to take what are normally referred to as static manifests, which are basically just fancy YAML files. So we're going to represent one dot here, as we'll call this a.yaml. And this would just be a YAML file sitting in a directory. And let's say this is of type deployment, which is a Kubernetes first class object. That's how you define an application in Kubernetes. And then you would come over here, and let's say we have b.yaml, which is a secondary file in the same directory. And this would be something like an ingress that we see here. So this is how normal Kubernetes works up here. So I'm just going to put Kate's up here. What Garden is doing is it's saying most of the time when folks create a project, they're going to create a deployment and probably an ingress and use Kubernetes ingress to access this deployment. So this, let's go back here. This YAML file here is defining both information about the container as well as about the network and how we can get to this as well. So if we go back to our doccam, we could represent that by saying we're sort of taking these two Kubernetes objects and we're merging them together, and we're only pulling out the bits that are important to us as software engineers, and we're going to call this c.yaml. And this is going to be an amalgamation of both of those. So this is exciting because, you know, we could have 3 of these maybe or 4 of these, and we could start to build these abstractions down here that simplify the Kubernetes stuff, which is pretty powerful. So thanks, Garden folks, for doing that for us so we don't have to do it ourselves. So this is really exciting. Okay, so let's go back to our screen. Okay, I'm glad I looked at that YAML file. So let's go back to our tree. And let's look at this main.go and see what's going on in here. I'm assuming it's just a simple Go web server, but we'll see. Go service, web server, main.go. There we go. Package main. It's got a handle function, which takes a HTTP response writer and a pointer to an HTTP request. This is a very familiar pattern if anybody's ever worked in Go before. And this is just basically listening and serving on port 8080. So all we're doing here is we're logging, server running, and then if you hit /hello go, it'll call this function here and print hello from Go on the return, on what the HTTP request returns. And I think by default, this will just return a 200 since it's actually returning something. So cool. So we have the world's simplest HTTP server written in Go. And I have a feeling that's what we're going to be running in Kubernetes. So back to simple project. Let's do our tree again. And then I think if we look down here, now we have a node service, which at first my thought was this is like a Kubernetes node. But if you look, these are JSON files. So I'm assuming this is a, or not JSON files, JavaScript files. I'm assuming this is a Node.js application as well. And I bet, I'm not a JavaScript expert, but I bet if we cat out services, node service, main.js, we're going to see very similar code that we saw in the Go. Yeah. So on /app, we're just doing app listen. So I think if I'm reading this correctly, which again, I'm not a big JavaScript engineer, if I'm reading this correctly, we're just basically starting a secondary web server, but written in JavaScript this time. So this alludes to the fact that Garden can compile and amalgamate multiple services or applications written in multiple different programming languages. So if your data access layer is written in Ruby, but your front end is written in JavaScript, you can bundle all those together in the same Garden project here, and you can deploy it all in one fell swoop. So that's pretty handy. Okay, so let's see what our CLI here says. It says Garden deploy. No, we want to do Garden build. So let's do Garden build and see what happens. Oh, we have emojis here too. Good job. I'm blaming Ellen for the emojis. Ellen, did you code in the emojis for the TypeScript Garden build command here? I'm going to go ahead and take a wild guess that was you, because emojis are great on the CLI. So it looks like we're building node service and Go service. And it's done, and we have a check mark. And I'm going to eat it in. So now let's see what we got going on here. Okay, it looks the same. Okay, where did it build? Building Go service done. So Ellen or Jan, if you could tell me what actually happened here. Did I push these? 'Cause I think I'm Docker login. Let's see. Yeah, so I'm already logged into Docker, so I'm wondering if it just picked up my Docker by default. Let's go to Docker Hub and see if it did that. Joe Beta. Need some lol gopher. It's written in TypeScript. But yeah, so Joe and actually this is the majority of this is written by Joe. If you come here to github.com/ I think it's in my name, lol gopher, you can see, yeah, because this is what we use in Cubicorn. Joe did a fork of the Ruby code, color 256. Yeah, you can see it here. And it will actually go through and colorize your output. And it implements io.writer in Go so that you can pass it in as a writer anywhere in your application and just get rainbow output, which is really beautiful. And we did an ASCII unicorn. Okay, so let's see. Jan says it built containers so they won't be in file system, just on your local Docker daemon. Joe says rewrite it in Go. Yeah, let's fork Garden and write it in Go and call it Godin. Or let's call it Gozen. That would be better. Okay, so actually you can see this on your local file system. Far lib. Where are the Docker containers? Is it /containers? I always forget where these things go. But somewhere in here, you can actually find your Docker container images. Anyway, I'm digressing here. Let's go back. So we're back in our simple project, and I bet if we do Docker ls, what is the Docker command? I don't ever use Docker anymore. Was it Docker list? I want to see all the containers. Build, attach, images, import, info, inspect, ps, rm, search, stat. We're going to make a Go plugin SDK eventually. That's awesome. Saeed says, how did you install Garden on the K8s cluster? I need to see the YAML. We'll look at it in a second. Let's do one thing at a time here. I want to see all the Docker containers. How to list images. That's what we want. Docker images. And then let's grep for Go service. Yep, there we go. Okay, so that all makes sense. I have to connect the dots together, otherwise my brain feels like I'm missing something. On a Mac, it's the Docker VM, Docker images. Thanks, Duffy. Okay, so we did, let's go back here. Connecting the dots here, that's what I do. Where is our quick start? Did I lose it? Oh, it's right here, quick start. Okay, so that's what Garden build does. So now let's do Garden deploy and see what we got going on here. Yay, rocket ship. Ellen says, I've been saying that from day one, Joe. Yeah, Ellen likes to write go. Okay, so this looks exciting. We have like things moving on the screen and version numbers, and it's changing, and it's all like rewriting itself to my terminal. I wonder if this uses incurses. I hope it uses incurses. That would make me really happy. To push it to your repo, you can. Duffy's typing in the chat here. Okay, so what's going on with Tiller? Now I'm curious. So let's do a new tab, zoom in on this, whoop, keep that one small, zoom in on this one, resize, and let's do kdump again. And then we'll kind of do a split screen here. There we go. Okay, so yeah, you know, in fact, I'm gonna exit out of this. Oh yeah, so for folks at home, if you're using a tool like incurses, which is basically the new curses library, it's like a GNU library. If your terminal gets all kind of goofy like mine is, where I'm typing here, there's 3 things you can do. The first one is you can do Control-L, and that will keep your place in your command line. So if you already typed a command and you go, oh, I want to clear the screen first, you can just do Control-L, bam. The other thing you can do is you can type clear, which is in GNU core utils, and if you really, really bonked your screen up and it doesn't look right, you can type a reset, and it takes it a moment, but it completely reflushes your buffer. So if your screen is just like F, like maybe you catted out some binary on accident, and now you're like, your terminal prompt is all messed up, type reset, it'll get you back to a happy place. Okay, Duffy Cooley says, retag it with Docker tag and then push it with Docker push. Okay, so if I wanted to push it to a Docker registry, I'm assuming Garden also has a way to do that. Let's see. Deploy, build, call a service ingress endpoint. Let's see. And Martin says, or Command K to clear the screen. That's another good one as well. Doesn't work on a Mac though. Woo. Okay, cool. So anyway, let's do our kdump here so we can see what's running in Kubernetes now that we've done our Garden deploy. So first things first, we have simple project pod go service. Okay, so let's look at this pod. I want to see the logs here. So let's do kgetpo. Actually, let's do alias. I love this trick that I learned from Joe. Alias, we'll do ks for kubectl simple project, and then we'll do kubectl -n simple project. So now we can do ks getpo. Awesome. So we have Tiller deployed, which Tiller is a Helm component that runs in your cluster that it sort of acts as like a registry type thing for your deployments with Helm. Don't let the word deployment confuse you, because there's 2 different deployments. There's the Kubernetes deployment, which I call the deployment proper, which you can list those by doing kget deploy. And we can do all namespaces here, and we'll see a handful of deployments. And then also with Helm, if we had Helm installed, we could do, I think, Helm ls. Or there's some way to do it with Helm, but there's this other concept of what Garden calls services, Helm calls deployments, which is a bit confusing, because that means we have 2 different deployment things at 2 different levels of our application stack. Yon says you can also call Garden logs, which will pull all the logs for you. And Garden publish will push containers. Okay, so this is really cool. Let's try this really quick. Garden publish. Oh my gosh, this is really rad. 2 published tasks failed. Denied. Requested access to the resource is denied. Unable to run Docker command. Interesting. Donald Guy says Helm list. Yeah, so I did have it correct. Yeah, I don't know why this didn't work. Unable to run Docker command. Helm calls them releases. Oh, Helm calls them releases. I thought it was, I don't know. I don't remember. I haven't used Helm in a while. So I guess I misspoke. They're called releases in Helm and services here in Garden. Which I guess I could pick on Garden and say the same thing. If there's services here, we could also do a kgit service, which is also a Kubernetes first class object as well. So anyway, let's see what's going on with this Docker push here. Denied, requested access to the resources denied because you weren't logged into Docker yet. I thought I just did a Docker login. Yeah, login succeeded. I'm totally logged into Docker. You need to set an image name so that Garden knows where to push it in the module garden.yaml. I'm so happy Jon and Ellen are here in the call to help us out. Okay, so here we want to Emacs garden.yaml. Okay, so let's see, environments. We might be getting off in the weeds. Well, let's come back to this later. Let's finish this quick start, and then we can figure out how we would define a Docker image in the module garden.yaml. Oh, are they called modules? So they're not called services, they're called modules. I think it has to do with the tagging of the image. Okay, so yeah, if Jon, if you and Ellen want to drop in maybe a link to a YAML file I could copy over to figure out how to define the image, that would be helpful. If not, we can go poke around in the projects directory for an example here in a second. Okay, so let's go back to our quick start. And here we have garden call, and we want to try the garden logs command that Jon suggested as well. Garden call, go service, hello, go, sending an HTTP request, hello from go. Okay, and this is what we saw earlier. So that's cool. So I'm wondering where call knew where to send this. Simple project 192/nip.io/hello-go. Okay, so nip.io is a way for you to get a name based off of an IP address. It'll automatically do the forwarding for you if you just paste in the IP address. Ellen says the nomenclature is that a module can contain multiple services. Okay, so what Ellen just said is this defines a module. Then this is one of many services. We have one called Go service and one called Node service. And I think each service represents a concrete application with, an API server and network configuration and ingress as well. So, okay, so there's like 3 levels. There's the Kubernetes level, the service level, and then a group of services is called a module. Okay, that's handy. So garden call, we just did that. Let's do this again. Get our output back. So I think I just pulled this from the kube config, built a nip.io URL, and then knows to hit hello go. I bet if we go in here and we cat out cat services go service garden.yaml, right here, that's where it got it, and this is how it knows what port to hit it on. Okay, this is cool. So the service port is the port we hit it on, so we don't define a port here, so it just defaults to port 80. Defined under service port, and then the container port is what it's going to forward to, and that container port is defined in our code. If we look at cat services go service web server main.go, you can see here we have port 8080. Okay, so Jon says here's the field to set if you want to publish the image. Perfect. I love when people join TGIK and like simplify things and make my life easier. It really does make the episode a lot more fun. So thanks for joining and thanks for helping us out. All right, so we want to look for image. Build target image. I think that's what we want. Let's see what Jon's link says. Container image. Okay, here it is. So not under build, it's just container image. So let's Emacs services, go service, garden.yaml. Come in here, type container. Let's see how this works. So let's look for services here on this page. So here's the link that Jon sent, by the way. Okay, I had this on the other screen. So if we look for services here, hot reload, right here. So it's an array of objects, and then we have services name. But so this is a first level declaration. So I think for our image name, we would come here And we would just do right up here. And let's get rid of that search. Do to and image. And we'll call this Go Service. Now, can I just do the image name, or do I also have to put my repository in here as well? Let's try this and see how this works. And get rid of that. Emacs services, node service, garden.yaml. And let's scroll down here, and let's do image is equal to node service. Save that, and let's do a garden publish and see what happens. Nope, I'm assuming that means we have to define our repo as well. So let's do like a FQ in here. Okay, so we want to do Kris Nova / node service latest. Save this, and let's do our other Emacs command, and we'll do Kris Nova / go service / latest. And then we can come back and add the docker.io if needed. You need the repository as well, is what Yon just said. Okay, so let's try garden and publish. Publishing image, yay! Okay, it's working now. Okay, so then we can go to Docker Hub. Docker Hub, sign in. Kris Nova. Yay, node service. Okay, so feel free to pull this if y'all want to run it locally as well. It now exists on the internet because Garden published it up here for us. Okay, so quick lesson and recap of what we just did. We just edited the YAML file and did a Garden publish, and that was able to not only build our image locally, store it locally wherever Docker likes to store its images, but then it also pushes it up to a container registry somewhere for us as well. Okay, so that's really handy, and all we had to do was just add image to the abstraction that we talked about earlier, which is the service garden.yaml. Okay, I think I got the nomenclature right there, but I'm trusting on you and Ellen to keep me honest here. Okay, so now let's do garden logs. See what this looks like. Oh, cool. Okay. So this is the name of the service, and this is the log line. So it amalgamates our logs for us. So this is really cool. So can we do a -f here? Oh, we can. Okay, so now let's do this. This is cool. Control O, Control P. Let's do garden call. What was our command here? Let's go back to our quick start and get our command. Garden call go service hello.go. So let's go back here. Oh, do that. And then we should see it over here. Oh, change directory, go path source, github.com, garden.io, garden examples, simple project. Now we can do our garden call. And poof, over here on the left, let's see if we can do this again. No? Maybe? I don't see a log line for that one. What happens if we run our command again? We should see 2 go services at the end. I see node service. I don't see go service. Interesting. I don't know why that's not working. Any ideas, Yon or Ellen, would be helpful. Because we know me, I have to like connect everything together. Okay, so now we can run tests for all the modules, running garden test. So let's see what this does. So we'll close out of this tab so we have a bigger screen here, and we'll do garden test. Oh, Yon says the service doesn't log anything. I thought that we saw in the Go file that it did a func. Oh, I see. It returns back. Okay, so I see what's going on. Okay, so it's not actually writing the standard out. It's just returning that message back. I saw a func command in the Go program, and I just assumed it was logging, but we were actually writing to the HTTP response pointer. Okay, so we did garden test. Let's look at garden test in a moment, and we can actually modify this file, and then I want to try to do garden dev. So let's, I know I keep opening up new terminals, so bear with me. So let's zoom in on this one. So we'll do our change directory command again. So here we want to Emacs services, what was it, Go service, web server, main.go. And then here we want to do garden dev. And then we'll do a whole new one here. And then zoom in on this. And this is going to be our garden logs minus f. So, let's do our change directory command again. Garden logs minus f. Okay, so if we do this right, we should be able to come in and see a log line right here in just a moment. Okay, so what we want to do is we want to run garden dev here on the left side. Ooh, we got the cool ASCII colors. It says, good afternoon, let's get your environment wired up. Okay, so it's already passed. Okay, so it's doing a test for us, and it's pushing our containers out, and then it says garden dashboard and API server is running. So that's a third thing we're going to do is we're going to look at the dashboard in a second. So now if I come here, I should be able to come into this handler function, and let's add some Go. Font.print, capital print line, we'll say hello from TGI. Meow, meow, right? And then if I do this correctly, we'll give us some white space here so we know what's going on. So I should be able to Control X, Control Save, wrote. Oh, yes, there it goes. Okay, cool. So yeah, so it's rebuilding now. And then if we should come here, we can do our call again. Here, let me exit out of Emacs. Control X, Control G, Control X, Control CY. Emacs, yay. Okay, so we have, syntax error. What did I do? Oh, I need to close my parens. I thought I did that. Maybe I accidentally deleted it. Okay, so now that's reloading, and let's do our garden call command. So the first one, it's probably hitting the first instance. Ooh, I broke it. Go service, no such container. Okay, so the logs, we got an error because the logs were looking for a container that wasn't deployed because there was a syntax error. So the container, I'm assuming, just instantly crashed. So let's run our garden logs again. That would be something I would not make. I would make that not break if it was me. I can open up an issue too if we want. Saeed says, so Garden is more of a CLI tool that talks to Kate's cluster and there is no server component. Absolutely correct. And the server component, in my mind, is one of the parts of tools like Helm that could really use some hardening and to simplify things and keep sort of arbitrary software out of your root namespace and keep system in your cluster. Okay, so waiting for code changes. Hello from Go. So if we did this right, I should be able to put in some space here. Come back, run our garden call command. Here. We should get a response. Oh no, I'll look into that. We probably didn't handle the crashed container. Yeah, I think that's all it is. Yon. Okay, and there's our logline. Yay! Garden. Okay, so that's cool. We were able to do a live dev. We were able to make a change to our file. And we were able to do garden call again. So this is what I think that blog that Yon wrote for us is alluding to, is it's sort of one tool to do everything for us. And we've seen a few other tools like this, but I think this one is catered specifically for engineers, and the abstractions that Garden uses for services and modules are catered specifically for developers, which this is cool because this is a hard problem that has been needing to be solved. So exciting. So now let's look at this dashboard. And then we'll look at, or do we want to do test first? All right, let's do +1 if you want to look at garden test. Let's do +0 if you want to look at the dashboard. And we'll just flip the order around. I kind of want to see what garden test is doing, but I'll let folks vote 1 for test, 0 for dashboard. And then like cue music. So you can really see how long the lag is whenever I ask people to vote. But here any moment, I bet we're going to see a bunch of 1s and 0s dropping into the chat. If not, I'm just going to do test. All right, going once, Going twice. All right, we're doing garden test. All right, garden test. Oh, now we have a vote. Donald says +0. So I'm wondering what garden test passed, like what it's running here, because I didn't see any unit tests. I'm just like eating M&Ms on TGI today. I didn't really see any unit tests. I guess here, yeah. Okay, cool. So let's look at this YAML file here. Cat services, node service, garden.yaml. Ah, here it is. Here at the end, we have unit tests, and we run npm test, and then we have, this is where the hot reload thing comes in again that we saw earlier. You can do args npm run and tag. So I think what's going on here, if I had to guess, if we cat out node service, services, node service, test, and tag.js, I bet this is Node.js's version of a unit test. I have no idea if this is a unit test or not, but let's just say it is. Garden test runs the command specified on your configs. If they return 0, they pass. Perfect. So Ellen just clarified that for us. So you can define unit tests in commands, and it will go and actually run your unit test and make sure it works. So that's really cool. That Garden gives us a little bit of a framework there as well. And so that's what the garden test command does. And I bet if we look in here, we can see our options. We have watch, and we have force. I don't see hot reload though. Oh, what is this now? Okay, so alias. Okay, so there's an emoji flag. Garden help. Is emoji a global flag? It is. Okay, so everybody should do this now. Alias garden is equal to garden emoji. So now let's do garden test. Look at that. Did we have them before? I don't know if we had emojis before. Oh, we did. Okay. Well, regardless. Okay. All right, let's look at this dashboard. So how we got to our dashboard earlier was when we were here on the split screen. And let's do a garden dev, which is the command that will run your tests, build your container images, and then deploy them to Kubernetes. And then I also want to look at what actually is running in Kubernetes and see how that maps back to the YAML files we have here, but we can do that as our closer. Okay, so it says garden dashboard and API server. There's an API server now. Oh, Yon says the emoji flag defaults to true. Got it. Nicely done. And if you wrote this in Go, we could use -- fabulous for logopher. So let's come down here and get Chrome pulled back up. Let's hit localhost 64377. Oh, this is slick. Okay, so you can see your services. You can even see where the ingress is defined. Hello from Go. Oh, this is really cool. There's a stack graph. Okay, so remember earlier when we were reading the docs, Guardian was talking about how it built a graph, and I kind of went through it's like, imagine it like a tree. I wish I would have had this pulled up at the time, because this is a really great explanation of the reasoning that the Garden software is doing behind the scenes to build all these different services and map them to Kubernetes objects. So that's cool. We can see our logs. Oh, this is handy. Why haven't I been using this the full time? So what happens when we click on Kubernetes? Oh, this is cool. It actually pulls up the Kubernetes dashboard for us. So kubeconfig, sign in, choose kubeconfig file. Can I just type it in here? This has always frustrated me. All right, we'll go into Nova. We'll list. I don't even see hidden folders in here. Okay, here, I'm gonna cheat. Let's do this. Copy kubeconfig to kubeconfig. And let's go back here, and we should see kubeconfig here. Poof, sign in. Not enough data to create auth info structure. John, if you modified the Go service code and tab back to the dashboard, you can see the graph responding live. Okay, I'll go back and do that in just a second. I want to see the Kubernetes dashboard because I think folks are curious how the Kubernetes objects are created and rendered, and the dashboard is a really good way to explore those. So let's see what's going on here. Client certificate, users Nova Minikube client cert. Oh, it's because it's Minikube. Frustrating. It's actually pointing to the cert. Every service account bears a token. Let's just skip this and see if we can do read-only. Okay, I was going to try to log in, but whatever. We're just going to skip it. Okay, so over here on the left, remember we talked about how deployments and services were first-class objects. We can see, if we go to the namespace simple project, we can see all of the objects here, some of which are going to be some of the things we talked about, like ingress and services and deployments, but we'll be able to effectively see everything that's going on here, and we have a little bit of a story of how it was created and set up, which is cool, and this is what I wanted us to look at. Donald Guy says the lag is going to make it too late, but you can push Command G in dialogue like that, and macOS gives you location box that you can edit and has tab completion. Oh, where has that been my entire career? Donald, you just changed like everything for me. Thank you for that. Yon says you can hit skip to avoid the kube config stuff, which we already did. Okay, so here in the namespace, you can see we've got an ingress message, so we were able to create some ingress, and we can actually come down here, and I'm sure we can list ingresses here as well. Now, why do we not see ingresses? Oh, right here, namespace. So we want to come into the simple project namespace, and here you can see, okay, now we can actually explore our cluster. We have our ingress set to go service. Here you can see our annotations. Okay, so what Garden was able to do is it was able to create some ingress rules for us, some ingress, I'm assuming there's an ingress controller deployed somewhere, which we're going to look here in deployments in the Kube system and see if we have an ingress controller deployed. Nginx ingress controller, yep. Okay, so Garden deployed an ingress controller for us. It went and configured ingress for us in the in the modules namespace called simple project. Let's see here. And it's went ahead and set up ingress rules. It looks like we created some services. We have Go service and Node service deployments, and we have the Tiller deployment as well. And if we come in here, we can actually see this is actually pulling, it looks like from Docker Hub, which is cool because we defined our image name. So we could use this in a real Kubernetes cluster today and be able to deploy with Garden if we wanted to. Oh, and Donald says you can, it's Command Shift G. Thank you for clarifying. Okay, so that's what our deployment looks like. So what Garden did was it took the world's simplest YAML file here. So let's look, actually I'll go into this tab. Let's cat out this one. So this defines our module, and this basically just says it's the name of all of the things that we're deploying is called simple project. So this maps to our Kubernetes namespace. So then we have services that map to deployments and ingress rules, and we can find those in the services directory here. And we can cat out Go service, garden.yaml, the same file we've been looking at the whole episode. And we can see, yes, our assumption about this being an abstraction is correct. And this abstraction maps back to the Kubernetes objects and resources that we saw in the dashboard a moment ago. So what Garden did was it said, in places where we do have something defined, let's pass that in and use that in our objects for us. But if you look for ingresses, we only had to define the path hello go and the port HTTP. But if we go and we look at our ingress for Go service, you can see we have a couple of labels, we have some annotations, and I think we can do edit, and we can actually see the raw JSON here. You can see there's obviously a lot more defined in this resource than what we defined here in this YAML, and that's what I mean when I say abstraction. Garden was able to piece this together and make some assumptions for us and build it so we as developers don't have to worry about it. So that's really, really handy. So we have ingresses, we have services, we have deployments, all of which built from this very simple Garden service, Garden YAML file. I think I said that correctly. So that's cool. So that's kind of Garden in a nutshell. I actually was able to get the dashboard up and running. Kubernetes, Kubernetes Dashboard up and running, and we were able to make a change to an app and push it live. I think that's pretty good for now. Let's take a look just for good measure and see if there's anything here that looks exciting that folks want to play with. Let's see, we have build, we have call, delete. Oh, let's do a delete. Is there like a garden list? Dev, deploy, logs, link? No? Scan? Scans your projects and outputs for an overview of all modules. That's what we want. So garden scan. Joe Beta says, I gotta go, y'all. Have a great weekend. Bye, Joe. I'll send you an email about mountain climbing later on today. All right, have a good weekend, Joe. Thanks for joining. And then here's all of our various modules we have defined. So I bet we can find name for these. Node service here. And I bet we can do a garden delete node service. Nope. What's the syntax here? Garden delete command. Secret environment or service. So we would want to do garden delete service. Node service. Oh, and then we got a skeleton. And then we want to do a garden delete service. Go service. Oh, also, I think I just found another bug. This should have gone back to stack here, and it didn't. It accepted my command, but yeah, see, I would have to hit enter here. Oh, maybe not. I don't know what's going on here. Let's do a reset. Was it a REPL? I don't know. Maybe it was just a REPL. Anyway, I digress. If there's anything else folks want to see, let me know. I'm going to join Joe. I got to get out of here. It's already an hour and a half into the episode. It's been an exciting episode on Garden. If there's anything else folks want to see, drop it in the chat now. Otherwise, now is that magic time of the episode where I sit here and eat M&Ms and wait for folks to tell me goodbye. It's been a really fun, exciting episode, and I'm just going to do a quick recap while we wait for folks to say goodbye and wish each other a happy weekend here, which is Garden command line tool. I don't think it uses CRDs, but let's check just for good measure. All namespaces. Okay, no, at least not in this example that we did today. So yeah, Garden, it's a command line tool. It helps at orchestrating all of the things you would do from CI/CD to active development to deployment to pushing up to or publishing to a Docker registry. Ellen says, this was great, Nova. Thank you very much. Saeed says, abstractions are always dangerous in my experience, but I assume Garden is aimed at devs rather than Kubernetes operators. 100%. And that was the point I tried to make earlier, Saeed, which is this is a tool strictly designed to simplify the developer's life, which is why they were able to make those assumptions in those abstractions. An operator, however, probably could benefit from their own tool similar to Garden, but for operator-y things. And I'm sure our SREs would also appreciate a Garden-style tool catered to their use cases as well. So Donald says, bye. Olav says this was fun. So yeah, Garden command line tool, CI/CD, you can publish images, you can deploy, you can get logs, you can execute your code, you can bundle in unit tests. It kind of solves all of the things you would want to do as a developer, and it makes it so that you have one easy-to-use command line tool to orchestrate all the development things, and it's all built in TypeScript and runs right here in your CLI. So if you want to develop on Kubernetes, Garden makes it easier and simplifies your workflow. And thanks to the folks at Garden.io for building such a wonderful open source tool and open sourcing it in the first place so that we can do a TGIK on it. One of the things we strive for here on TGIK is to stick strictly to free and open source software. So this is how we were able to get Garden and from the Garden.io folks live on TGIK. So again, thanks everyone for joining. Jan, it was wonderful to talk to you. Ellen, pleasure as always. All of my Heptio friends, or VMware friends, thanks for joining. I'm going to get out of here. I got a mountain to climb this weekend, so we'll see how the weather turns out. Wish me luck. And I will be back next week with another exciting episode. If folks have ideas for next week, let me know. All right, bless, bless.